Welcome to this webinar. That's called Winning the Budget Game, how content delivery gets you the buy-in you need for large content projects. We were really looking forward to having this webinar, and even more since at the end of 2021, just I think 2 months ago, we ran a survey on LinkedIn and we asked our, I'm going to turn the camera off. And we ran this survey on LinkedIn, and we asked the community, what are the bigger blockers for the digital transformation of your content operations? And 20% of the respondents answered, ta-da, budgets are squeezed. So these reflect, and so we've been investigating further these points, but this reflects many different situations and realities from the internal competition between projects internally, content operations and not content operations, to the difficulty to get specific budget, interest, and attention for content operations in particular. And this is definitely not 2021 brand new information. We are a provider of a solution that's dedicated to technical content, and we've been sitting with content teams, more than once over the last decade, in this project, in trying to get this budget start and go on with our partners from the content industry. And we've truly experienced what an obstacle course getting the organization buy-in for large projects could be. Still, I'm happy to say that there is light, not even at the end of the tunnel, but there are solutions. And we found out there were some findings. We made some reflections that we've had and some success stories that we are happy to testify now, and we wanted to share that with you today. So before getting into the solutions, the hints, and the success stories that we found and identified in getting this buy-in for large content projects, I wanted to start with the root cause of this project and the reason why you need or your teams are fighting for this budget and are trying to get this project launched. And so we're going to start with this root cause, because you are asking budget for a good reason. That's well, definitely, and that's not totally new either. But your teams, and I've seen that the people that joined today were mostly from content strategy team, also a few people from marketing. But your teams, content writing teams, content operation teams, etc., are truly under the pressure of producing more content with the same resources, more and more. And usually it's pretty difficult to get budget for more people. So that's the same people usually. You are in the under pressure as well of creating and delivering faster your documentation, because the product cycles are faster and faster, not only in the software industry, but we've seen that, well, in software industry with SaaS, that's a fact. You really have to match the release cycles, and that's getting faster and faster. But also in all industries, we're seeing that trend of having new products, new release, and new documentation going to the market. There's a go-to-market that's much quicker. So you're under pressure of more, and you're also under the pressure of faster delivery. You're asked to provide personalized content. Definitely, your customers are not asking for one-size-fits-all documents documentation. So they are looking for, and they are really asking for documentation which is personalized to their needs, to the exact product where they are. So how do you do that with the current tools and the current people that you have on the team? So that's one. And generally speaking, your companies are pressured to um, achieve their digital transformation, to offer a modern experience, and actually through modern experience, one of the main points is that you have to serve more digital channels, and you, as a content team, you are asked to produce more content for more channels. So to do all that, definitely you need to modernize your content operations. And this is not just a plug and play process, not at all. When you're modernizing and you're asking to modernize your content operations, there are 3 points that are definitely, well, extremely important in your process and in your project. There are 3 points that you really need to consider. First one, you need to consider the resources that are involved in the project. So you need resources across the project at the beginning to define the needs for the project, the structure of the project. You have people that need to realize the project, they are test, etc., etc. So you need resources, a lot of resources, and not only from your content team, but you have to involve also resources from different departments. I'm thinking of IT, for instance, but also different business units, people, UX designers, for instance. So that's just for resources. That's one point. Then you have the technology. So modernizing your content operations usually requests new generation tools that are digital first. They need to fit with the different digital channels um, that you are going to feed. They need to be open. They need to interact with all the other systems. That's a must, and they need to support collaborative work. And that's not usually the type of tools that you have. So we've seen there is resources, there is technology, and last but not least, there is the organization. These large projects will definitely request some change management. So by changing your processes, your tools, the way that you will produce and deliver your content, then you will probably upset a little bit the organization, or a lot. Some tasks that were allocated to your team may go to some other team, some tasks may disappear. Well, you may collaborate in a different way across the organization. So that's it. Resources, technology, and organization are the three pillars of your project, and that creates, as a whole, that creates project, large, very large content project that are time consuming and that cost a lot of money. So this project, usually on top of that, they follow more or less what we've seen, this always the same approach. So we all know that there are two main parts in a content project. We have to consider the creation, the writing, and the production of the content. That's one part. Let's say the content creation itself. We call it here the CCMS project on the one hand. And we have the other part, which is the delivery of the content. So how your content reaches the user. That's the main two pillars of the project. The traditional approach of most of your large content projects is to go restructuring first. So to care about and to take care of the writing, the production part first, mostly by going to restructure your content. And then, so we call it the CCMS project. And then the teams think of the content delivery as the second phase. And doing so, most of these large projects with the restructuring content first, well, they follow the same pattern, and that's a heavy pattern, and that's heavy tasks that take time and money. So, well, to go to restructuring your content, you need most of the time to hire consultants, and we know very good ones, by the way. But you have to hire consultant because going to restructure content is if not a science, that's actually something that requires a strong experience and expertise. So usually you don't go alone unless you have someone internally who's an expert. But you need to hire a consultant that will help you drive the decision making or the thinking about the structure, how you will progress with your project, what you will restructure, not, etc., etc. So there is that part. Probably the consultant will be involved also in the choice of a solution. You will have to choose the authoring tool or the CCMS tool that will help you transform, that will handle this transformation and these new production methods and these new production process that you will have. So there will be this choice of a CCMS. There will be the fact that you need to buy this CCMS to implement, well, say CCMS, that can be an authoring tool as well, but implement a CCMS. So implement means technically, install, implement, etc. That also means training the teams to write structured content on the one hand and to use the new tools. And in the end, you come to migrate all the content, if not all the content, at least some huge amount of content. So all in all, that's very, very big projects that you are having here. Usually that's a lot of people involved, we say it, and that's the project that can easily reach 2 to 3 years before you get to the first result, or that very first phase of the project can be 2 to 3 years. So Fabrice, correct me if I'm wrong. I know you've seen a lot of these projects. What's your take on this one?
I fully agree with what you describe. All the people we've been talking to in the past years, or at least 95% of them, the tech writing teams we've been talking to had this focus on migrating to structured content, meaning for them moving to structured content authoring, which means having a CCMS, moving on to data, or tools allowing unleashing structured content authoring. And what is interesting is that those companies really think that it's even a prerequisite, and that to start like that before doing anything else, like revamping the delivery of the content itself. And as you just described, those CCMS projects are pretty long and complex, which means that you start with the most difficult part of the project itself. That brings two customer stories. The first one, and that was really striking me. One day we had a prospective customers reaching out to us and say, "Hey, can you tell us about free topics? We are very interested in this dynamic content everything, personalized content. Can you show us?" So we've been demoing the tool, talking to them for a while, and then suddenly they totally disappeared and didn't even reply to our emails. And they reached back to us like probably 3 years later. And the first thing they told us is, "Okay, we're ready now." So we're ready for what? I mean, yeah, we're ready for a tool like Free Topics because we've been transitioning from Word, FrameMaker, unstructured content to structured content. It took us 3 years. It was quite painful, but we're there. And we have structured content now, and then we can benefit from the power of Free Topics. Wow, who did you tell? Who told you that you needed to move to structured content to structured authoring first? I mean, that's interesting to see that was totally, they couldn't think it differently. I mean, that was CMS first, and then probably once they had revamped the content, they could benefit from a modern CDP platform. And we do agree that moving to structured content authoring is important, and being equipped with the proper tools is a necessity to reach TechDoc team's objective and to modernize the content operation. But the thing is that such projects, even if you fully document them with a thorough analysis on the needs, the impact on the organization, the ROI, even though you do all that, they are very, very difficult to sell to your execs. It's very difficult to get the budget. It's difficult because they are multi-year projects, as we've seen most of the time. And the ROI is very difficult. Well, even though there are methods for that, considering the cost of those projects, of those content migration projects, the ROI is quite long and difficult to prove. So, and we've seen another customer like that had this project, like wanted to buy a CMS, wanted to have Free Topics, move everything into this modern era, but couldn't get the budget because, and each and every year, they were telling us, "Okay, this year I'm presenting again my project to the steering committee, and I hope we'll get the budget. Then we can do it." And 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, it took them 4 years to get the entire approval because the entire cost of the project was so big that they couldn't get the money. So that's a difficult sell. And to understand why it's difficult to sell this project to your management, you have to understand that there is a difference in how you perceive the value. As a TechDoc team, if you move to as a TechDoc team, you perceive the CMS, the value of the CMS project, because you understand that probably by being able to reuse content, you can write faster, and also probably moving from unstructured to structured will allow you to write in parallel. Having more people involved in the project, and probably SMEs as well, can support your writing effort or review the content in an easier way. And then probably you're going to rely on the translation cost, and that's going to streamline your translation process. So you see this value, and you rank the value of the CMS project quite high. You know, these four bullets, green bullets that we show here on the left side. So, but this is what you perceive as the TechDoc team. And then you understand as well that you can put metadata on your content, it's going to be easier to manage. And having done this move into granular content, tagged content, then the CDP, you can change the delivery and people will benefit, end user will benefit from filters, fine-grained reading, web delivery instead of PDFs and static documents. And you put then another value, but as a tech writing team, because it is your concern, probably you put a lot of value onto the CCMS and this project. But if you look at it from an exec or an end user perspective, they don't really care. Your users don't really care about how you write the content. That could be written in Word or on a wiki, as long as you have the technology and the front end that allows this capability to search and navigate and browse and interact with the content in a good way. The tool that you use for writing that content doesn't matter to them. And imagine what it means for an exec. If you go to your boss and say, hey, boss, we've got this CCMS project, okay, we're going to, and those are the benefits, reusable content, streamlining the translation, probably cut off some cost on the translation. But for that, I need, I don't know, $500,000, $1 million. We've seen project just for the CCMS and mostly the content migration as well. So I could take 2 million, it's gonna last 2 years. And at the end, we'll have transition. And say, okay, and what do you change? What is the benefit for the end user? Say, oh, we'll see later. But can you imagine that you ask for 2 million, 2 years project, and probably today you write with Word, you generate PDFs, and it's at the end of this transition, after 2 years and 2 million, you still generate PDFs. What are the benefits for the company? How can you convince your management that there are benefits into investing and taking risk if you don't change the way you deliver content, if it's not changing the life of the end users, of the support agent, of the field technicians? So the perception of the value is very different from what you see, because you understand the tricky part and the bits and ins of the CCMS project. But if you don't change the delivery, if you don't show the value, and if you cannot prove the immediate impact, then it's not going to work. You won't get the money.
So you need to think like your execs, right?
If you want to get some money for your project, you have to show something that has an impact on your company, on the user experience.
So with the user in mind, because yes, what your company, your organization, not only the execs, but the overall organization will care of is customer first. What the way they think those days, and makes sense. I mean, that's customer first. And so what they will be sensitive or sensible, I never know, but something like this to will be that they the customer experience. What resonates with your execs and what you need to put first is, well, what they care about is the frustration that the users will experience, the friction that they get when looking for your product information and trying to get information on your product, and well, also the time that will be spent or lost or wasted by the users to find your information. So they will definitely care about that. We know that one of the central point that um, well, organizations are caring about regarding information management is the ability to have a central source of information, because their users are lost currently and complaining, most of the time complaining that they cannot find information. So removing this frustration through a central source of information, central source of truth, is really crucial for them. And that's something that they will listen to if you can solve that. On the other hand, or other end, they really care about their the digital touch point and their digital presence. What I mean here is that they want to be everywhere your users will be, and your users won't be. Yes, they are able to search into one central source, but they will also have a customer journey, user journey, and they will touch base with your product in different touch points. I mean, from your website, from a help desk where they are looking for information inside the product. For instance, if you are a software vendor and you want to have product information at the level of the product in a chatbot, etc., etc., they want to be where customers and users are, and that means multiple digital touch points. What they also care about beyond the central accessibility of the knowledge and the information and the different touch points, digital touch points where you can reach your users with your content is the self-service aspect. It's not a buzzword. Yes, it's a buzzword, but it's also a real need. There's 88% of B2B customers in the US who said in a recent survey that they require self-service portals and they prefer vendors with self-service portals. They require that from their suppliers. So I think in Europe that's pretty the same percentage. So self-service and the ability to look for and get the information and product answers whenever they need and by themselves is something really crucial for customer satisfaction and also a very big source of operational efficiency for organizations. So that's another point. And beyond self-service, what organizations care about much these days is the engagement and the loyalty they can get from their customers and users. So what they want to offer them is an experience where people can have interactions with the content, make it theirs, um, and interact, build their own content from your content, etc., personalize, etc. So they will be looking for that kind of experience that creates engagement, collaboration, and loyalty from the customers. And finally, we have to think that the execs are very much, I'm not going to say influenced, but they really matter. I mean, these Gartner and Forrester studies that we hear about, that's not nothing for them. I mean, people are following the trends or they want to be ahead of the curve. And this type of reports regarding the trends of technology, etc., are really important for decision makers within the company. They don't want to be behind the curve, they want to be ahead of it. So when you are speaking of an investment, if they have to make an investment into new solutions, they need to be future proof, because if you mention that you will be able to feed a website, then they will go next and they will ask you, well, website, okay, but chatbots. I'm more thinking of chatbots because it's supposed to be the future, or will it be fit for artificial intelligence? Well, will it be powered by artificial intelligence? Will it give autonomy? Will it power some augmented reality or virtual reality? I mean, will yeah, this metaverse and everything. So they want to be one step ahead, because if they want to make an investment, they want to make it not for just 1 year or 2 years, but they want to be ready for the future. So definitely what your execs will be caring about in these projects is this visible tip of the iceberg that large content projects usually place at the end of the process. And so, I mean, what can you do to make sure that they are supporting your modernization process? So I would just suggest to flip it, flip the project and begin with what used to be, well, the end of the project. So start with the user experience. That's where the value which is delivered is more obvious, quicker. Um, we are speaking of a content delivery project can be something it it counts in weeks or months, not in years at all. So you can expect the first results very quickly, and you really focus on the things that they want to see and the results that are highly measurable. So probably easy to say. How are they measurable? I mean, what do we mean by results and quick wins? So that's all activities or all wins that are related to, as we said, customer facing functions. In particular, we know that people are extremely sensitive these days to the customer support efficiency. I mean, if company grows, it's really important that the customer support can scale, and that can be a blocker, definitely. So the benefits from the change in customer experience with content truly supports customer support efficiency. It only supports the operational performance of your teams and the way that they're working, in particular, saving time in search searching information. And finally, and that's last but not least, but this user experience with content is definitely, or this content delivery is definitely supporting your product visibility, brand awareness, and internet presence. So, well, that's just a number. But if we want to start with customer support efficiency, there is a study, a recent survey made by Gartner that says that we can save by between 20 and 40% of live volume of support requests, of support calls, that can be resolved by using self-service functionality. So between 20 and 40% of your calls, of your tickets, can be reduced through self-service. That's theoretically what Gartner is saying, and what the survey is saying. But the thing is that that's actually what we are experiencing with our customers. We have these our customer Swiss Print, for instance. We implemented a self-service documentation portal with us recently, and what they did is that immediately after they launched the portal, there was a very strong case deflection, and the number of support tickets dropped by 34%. See, one third of the tickets disappeared immediately after they launched the self-service portal, and you can imagine the time that it saves for the support agents to do something else, and also for the company in particular to grow its activity without totally exploding the support costs. So that's one point regarding customer support efficiency. But operationally, we can see also very good results at the level of operational performance. We have another customer in industrial customer. We implemented dynamic delivery and the documentation portal. They estimated in the first year after they launched the portal that they were saving 800 hours per month in search time. 800 hours per month in search time, not in search time, in particular in search time for them. That means 5 full-time employees. So that's a huge saving. That's a saving of money, but in some industries, that's also so difficult to hire technicians, for instance, that also being able to do the job with reducing, a lot of people are going retired. I mean, being able to do the same job with a little less people, I mean, that's a plus. That's definitely a plus. And finally, I mean, we have many more examples, but the one I wanted to mention here is regarding the internet presence. We have our customer Hexagon PPM, who recently had a webinar with us as well. So what they were able to reach is that they moved from 0 web presence to the first page of Google in a year, just by opening their documentation portal, launching their documentation portal and opening it to the public. The referencing was so good that they moved from 0 presence to first page, and in particular to the top 4 results for their typical keywords. You can imagine, well, first, that's people, the tech team was extremely proud. That's one. But second, you can imagine the marketing money that it saved the company, because that was achieved without any additional budget in marketing. So we have a lot of examples like this of in all areas, like support, performance, visibility, marketing, etc. So that's a huge, very fast results that our users have been able to get to reach very shortly, because moving to the first page of Google in less than a year, that's pretty interesting in terms of performance. And so that's what we mean when we are saying that putting the customer experience first and starting with the content delivery first is really helping you make some early wins really at the beginning of the project, and being able to really switch the project this way. So you'll ask me, how do you do that without restructuring the content? So what's the trick? So there's no real trick, but Fabrice, maybe you want to speak to us about the how the magic works.
Yeah, that's something worth explaining, because I think that many people tend to mix or think that content delivery is about just having a website, which is not the case. A content delivery platform is just like, it's not like transforming content, putting content on a website and a search engine on top of that. That's not the way it works. Advanced content delivery platform like Free Topics is really designed to support all the use case and all the values and deliver the values that you have described. And the way it works is pretty simple. First, it takes any content in any format. It works with all the content that you already have, which is why you don't have to transition to structured content first. So if you do have structured content, data content, then you can publish your data content directly into Free Topics. But if you have FrameMaker or Word files, that's not a problem. There are connectors that are transforming that content and make this content look like being structured. We don't have probably the granularity that you would have designed if you were in data, but at least Free Topics is able to take your unstructured content and restructure it, making it look seemingly structured. Okay, so it's not like documents. It doesn't deliver PDFs. It transforms these Word documents, FrameMaker documents, into granular content and delivers it in a granular way more interactive. But work supports as well Markdown, I don't know, OpenAPI, and other content types or text or all the content that you have in multimedia and all that. So that's one. It takes the content as it is, as you have it today, and have enough technology available inside the platform, so you don't have to do anything, just push the content to Free Topics so that it transforms the content, makes that content as if it were good enough. So it also combines, so based on what I just described, it combines all the content you have from those multiple sources, meaning that it creates this unique repository of knowledge, avoiding people to scout multiple sources and to run multiple searches into different places. It creates this centralized knowledge base. Also, a platform like Free Topics has all the algorithms and knowledge and artificial intelligence needed to enrich the content. Even though you start with untagged content, unstructured content, flat text, it has all the tools embedded to restructure the content, create the tags, add the tags, align the tags, because probably your content is different tags and different metadata because it's managed in different tools and different sources. So that's part of the magic of a CDP, a modern CDP, and a tool like Free Topics. That's what you see on the left side. It has all the tools, all the technology to collect, process, transform, and enrich your content to create a unified, enriched knowledge hub. That's one. And then on the downstream, it's designed to serve the content in this granular way, either through a TechDoc portal, but as well adding all the APIs necessary to connect this content to your different touch points, to your different applications. So it's really by design content. It's unleashing content as a service by design. So that's what it means. And providing the web widgets for integrating in existing portals or CRM systems, or doing inline help if you're a software vendor. So it has this capability to serve the content without duplicating the content and reloading the content in the touch points. The touch points connect to Free Topics, connect to the CDP to get this live access to the content. And a modern CDP as well provide all the tools for supporting user engagement, like bookmarking, creating alerts, sending feedback, commenting. All that is part of a modern CDP, which is something that you wouldn't have on a static website, and it's clearly something that you can't do and you don't provide when you just have PDFs and documents. It's really going beyond the document approach by transitioning into live content. That's the idea, and that's how it works.
But while we are working on this and the content experience on the user side, we're not forgetting about the CCMS project, right?
No, we're not. We're not. As we said, it's mostly put the CDP in place first, because it's way faster to do. As you said, it's few weeks or few months of project. Complexity is low because the CDP has a lot of Free Topics, for example, has a lot of technology to ingest the content as it is today. And as you described, it creates a lot of value immediately for the users and for the company. But at some point, once you have your CDP in place, you can start transitioning and move your content into the CMS and start a CMS project. So the good thing is that because you've started with the CDP and by considering the user experience first, you will learn, for example, what metadata are needed, what metadata are useful for filtering the content, or if you want to do inline help and contextual delivery or personalized content delivery. Probably you will need a metadata describing the content and the context where some content applies. And setting up those end user, these front portals will help you design and understand what metadata are needed. And those are the metadata scheme that you will then apply and develop into your CCMS project. But you know why you need those metadata, because you have all the use cases in mind at that time. And that's the same for the document structure. If you move to structured content, imagine you have, I don't know, Word or FrameMaker content and structured FrameMaker or something like that, and you want to transition into data. Part of the work you will have to do is the granularity, the content architecture. Okay, how do you chunk the content? Most of the time, people start designing the granularity based on the reuse, but that's not the only parameter to design the granularity of the content. The granularity may depend on the delivery aspect. If you want to do, for example, virtual reality or augmented reality projects, you need very fine-grained content, okay? Because you cannot serve 2 pages of content and look at 2 pages of content inside smart goggles. It needs to be way shorter fragments of content. Or if you want to do a chatbot as well, same. You need very, very fine-grained content. So by knowing exactly the user experience that you want to deliver and having in mind the channels, the touch points that you want to roll out and to deploy, that will help you design the document structure that you need. So that's why it's interesting as well to start with the CDP project, not only because you can be up and running and deliver value fast, but as well, you will learn a lot on what matters to the users and develop the use cases that will drive a proper CMS project. Another aspect probably is that you are not forced to move all the content at once. If you start with the CMS, usually what we see is companies are transforming the content, almost all of the content from what they have into data, because that becomes the tool where they will manage the content. And because they start publishing from the CCMS, they need all the content inside the CCMS. Clearly, the good point is when you do have a CDP in place, you're not forced to migrate all your content. You can keep some of your content in legacy format because it's already served by the CDP. It's already served by Free Topics. Okay, and if it's good enough as it is, and the CDP has transformed it into seemingly granular content, and that works, why migrate this content and manage it in the CMS? You can put some FrameMaker in place and keep. If you have to do one fix every 6 months, why support the burden and the complexity of migrating that content? Keep it as it is. It's legacy content. The products are not evolving anymore, or they are end-of-life products. So you can benefit from the CDP because it alleviates the need of migrating all the content. You can as well phase your efforts. You can start by migrating content into your CCMS, the content that corresponds to the most used product or the new products. Okay, and then focus on designing proper content for the most important and valuable content. And that buys you time as well. You don't have to write everything and migrate everything at once, as I said, because now that you have delivered the value and you have the CDP in place and you have created this new user experience, whether your project, your migration project, your CCMS project lasts 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, that's okay, because you have already served the value, and you can move your content in the background from one tool to another one. And if you want to migrate to another 2 or 3 years later, that's okay, because the CDP hides this diversity and takes care of presenting a unified interface and a unified user experience. So this is greatly reducing the cost and the risk of your project. And because you have delivered this value first, then it's way easier to convince your management of the value of transitioning to structured content, because you have shown what it would mean. And then you say, okay, it could be even better if we have proper granularity, if we have a better content architecture. And then you can show the impact and what it means having structured content and rich content. And there are more wins as well than just what I've described here. Another aspect is, as I said, and probably that's a good reason to explain to your management why you need to move into a CCMS, because you could tell, well, now that I have the CDP in place, and the CDP, the 3 topics, makes my content look great, even though it's word behind or something like that, makes the content look granular. Well, it's true, but that's not the entire story. If you want to be future-proof, and if you want to deliver to more modern devices, as I said, like AR, VR, chatbots, then, as we said, you need the granularity at the proper level. If you want to do higher personalization, you need more tags. You need more semantic on your content. And this is where you need to put the CMS. You need to move to structured content, and you need to be more in control of the content architecture, the content granularity, and the tags. So you start with the CDP, and that creates this sort of coarse grain, rapid value, and it boosts the user experience. But then this helps you optimize your project, and then once you have your CMS in place, CCMS in place, you can fine-tune the content architecture, the granularity, the tags, the metadata, which will then future-proof, help you feed those new channels and future-proof the innovation and the content. So this is a good way to transition from rapid to future-proof.
Thank you very much, Fabrice. Just as an end note, what I would like to say is that, well, what we've been sharing today comes from really the experience and the work that we've been doing with some partners, customers, people on the market, and content teams on the market. And one tool that we've found pretty efficient in winning this budget game and being able to get the buy-in from the execs and the organization in general is the ability to demonstrate these early wins that will be made through content delivery. And what we try to use in the document that I'm just pointing right now is we've built an return on investment calculator based on some studies that some of our customers have run, or the experience that they've had with content delivery. So what we wanted to make available to people is a tool that enables them to put their own number, their own situation. Well, how many what content are you using right now, how many support agents do you have, what you could expect in terms of call deflection, etc., so that you can calculate by yourself, measure by yourself the expected cost savings and gains that you could deliver with content delivery, starting with content delivery first. And the examples that we have here, the numbers that we've used in these tools are coming from the market and from some surveys that we've done with our customers. So that's really something that you can use, and we think that really helps the conversation with the top management and the budget discussions. So really feel free to use that. There will be a follow-up email after this session, and you will get the link if you want to download it and try to see what it means for your company. That can be definitely helpful. So thank you everyone for participating to this webinar. It's now time for Fabrice and I to put our webcams again, and if you have questions, we'll be happy to answer. I have a few ones here. Up. Someone is from the audience is asking if I could share the reference of the Gartner study I mentioned. I guess that's the one, the 20 to 40%. Yes, definitely. I will send you an email after the presentation to share you to share the reference with you. I've seen some other questions. Yes, a question regarding the duration of the of a content delivery project. Fabrice, can you take that
Yeah,
one?
I would say it depends on the how many sources of content you have probably and what you want to achieve, but it goes from, we've been doing project from, I don't know, few weeks to a long project, unless you have something very specific, but a long project, maybe 2 to 3 months. I mean, that's already a lot. And again, that mostly depend on how much energy our customers can put into rolling out the CDP and how ready their content is. Most of the time, what is not really and what takes the more time is this metadata thing, especially when they write unstructured, like FrameMaker or Word, or they have, I don't know, wikis and HTML content that they create in a wiki. They don't have much tags. And then suddenly they realize that that would be better if they could put facets in the search, for example. And having facets mean having metadata. And then they realize they don't have the metadata and they have to start putting some metadata on content, even though it's a Word document. So there are tools for uploading those metadata into free topics, but at least you have to define them. And that's where probably what takes the most time is not the project itself, but that's the beginning of the story I described, where you have to start thinking about, okay, even though I start small, I don't have metadata at all, what are the metadata I'd like to define, the first metadata I'd like to define, so that they become filters for faceted search, for example. And that's where usually we see the projects not lasting weeks, but 2 or 3 months, because they have this sort of thinking to be done on defining the first metadata sets.
Great, thank you. So I also have some questions regarding how to calculate the ROI of a content delivery project. But yes, I mean, I guess that was a question that arrived before the information regarding the ROI calculator. So please use it. I'm sure that will be helpful. Another question is, are the people who are working on the CDP project also working on the CCMS project? Are they the same people? I guess that's the question. Fabrice?
Sorry, are the same people?
Same people working on the CDP and on the CCMS
Uh,
project.
yes and no. Yes, because, for example, if you consider metadata, defining metadata, and working on the UX and the user experience for accessing and reading content, probably the tech writing team is the one knowing the content, so knowing what are metadata that makes sense and that are discriminating the different types of content types, profiles, audience. So most of the time, I would say yes, those are the same team. Probably a bit of IT sometimes. We see IT people involved in the CDP project that may not be involved on the CCMS project, especially if you choose a CCMS tool that is in SaaS mode. And in that case, the tool is external to the company, and then the IT people are not involved because they don't have to connect that tool to the rest of the necessarily to the rest of the IT landscape, as opposed to CDP projects where sometimes the IT is involved. I don't know, for connecting to single sign-on or leveraging the APIs because they want to integrate that into an existing tool or feed another touch point, and then some tech guys may be involved or developers may be involved. But otherwise, it's mostly the same people, especially at the beginning, meaning the tech dev team.
Great, thank you. And I have some last questions that's more about sharing the content. So yes, definitely we can share the presentation with you. If some more people want to get the presentation, please just let me know through the question bar here, and I will have it sent over to you after the presentation. So I think we've addressed all of the questions that we've had tonight. For me, it's tonight, but probably earlier in the day for you. So thank you very much for attending the presentation. I just wanted to remind that in case you want to share the information or see the replay, you missed one part, there will be a replay available on the CIDM website pretty shortly, and same on the Free Topics website. So with this, I thank you very much for attending the presentation and being with us today, and I hope to see, hear from you soon. Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye.